sky above Earth changed forever on a calm morning when hundreds of silver ships appeared in orbit. They came without warning or attack. Every radar screen filled with signals, and every nation called for answers. The ships moved with silent grace, floating like giant mirrors that reflected sunlight into long golden streaks. People stood on rooftops, beaches, and mountains, staring upward in awe. For the first time, humanity saw clear proof that it was not alone. News channels broadcast the sight every second, while scientists and leaders debated what the visitors wanted. Fear spread first, but curiosity followed. The visitors were from the Zelari Empire, civilization older than any human record. Their ships could cross light years in days. Their technology was beyond imagination. Yet, they had come not for war or conquest, but for contact. The message they sent to Earth was short and calm. They wished to meet in peace and form understanding. The world leaders gathered under the United Council in Geneva. They decided to welcome the Zelari in open communication. After weeks of negotiation through translation networks, the aliens chose to send one representative, their princess. To begin the exchange, her name was Princess Aria. When her transport ship descended through the clouds, cameras captured every moment. The ship looked like a smooth silver shell glowing with soft blue light. It landed on a wide field prepared for her arrival. Soldiers stood at the edges, and diplomats waited in formal suits. The air shimmered as a ramp opened. Out stepped the princess, tall and graceful, dressed in a flowing white and silver garment that shimmered with threads like stars. Her skin had a faint golden hue, and her eyes shone with calm intelligence. She looked almost human, but carried an aura that felt ancient and wise. Her voice was soft but clear when she greeted the crowd. "We come to share peace and learning. We come with open hands." Her accent was strange yet melodic. The crowd listened in silence as the translator repeated her words. Cameras captured every second, and within minutes, her face was broadcast to billions across the planet. The United Council introduced a group of experts to assist her during her stay. Among them was a young engineer named Leon. He was not a politician or a soldier. He was chosen for his skill in energy systems and his calm nature. Many thought his role was minor. But destiny had other plans. When Leon first saw the princess, he felt nervous, yet curious. Everyone around him treated her like a sacred being. They bowed, avoided direct eye contact, and spoke in rehearsed lines. Leon did not know how to act. He simply nodded and said, "Welcome to Earth, Your Highness." Arya looked at him with surprise. Few had ever greeted her so simply. She smiled faintly and replied, "Thank you, human." From that small exchange began a connection that neither expected. Arya's arrival changed the rhythm of the world. Her visit became the most watched event in human history. Every movement she made was analyzed. Every word she spoke turned into headlines. Governments tried to impress her with parades, cultural shows, and endless speeches. She remained polite but distant. She was fascinated instead by small things. The way children laughed, the sound of rain hitting glass, the scent of flowers in a garden. For her, these were wonders that the grand halls of the empire never had. Leon was assigned to assist her with the construction of a new energy bridge, a device that would connect Earth to the galactic network. It was a mixture of alien and human technology, and only a few understood its design. Leon worked quietly beside her in the research facility built near the landing site, while others watched her in awe. Leon focused on the task. He did not try to impress her with compliments or seek her attention. He explained his ideas, pointed out design errors, and sometimes disagreed with her. His honesty caught her attention. One afternoon, as they studied the power stabilizers, Arya asked, "Do humans always question authority?" Leon looked at her and smiled. "Usually. It is how we learn." She tilted her head. "On my world, questioning a princess could be seen as disrespect." "Then your world must be quiet," he said lightly. She looked at him for a moment, then laughed softly. The sound surprised even her guards. It was the first time anyone had heard her laugh since arriving on Earth. As days passed, the work continued. Arya spent long hours studying human methods. She was amazed at how humans achieved so much with so little. Their tools were simple, yet their creativity filled the gaps. They built machines from metal scraps and powered cities from sunlight. Their minds, though limited by lifespan, worked with passion. She began to ask more questions about Earth, not its politics or armies, but its people. She wanted to know how families lived, how children were taught, and what dreams humans chased. Leon told her stories of artists, explorers, and inventors. When he spoke, she listened closely. She realized that while her empire had power, it had lost something precious. Humans carried hope in everything they did. Even when they failed, they tried again. One evening, during a maintenance check, an energy coil overheated. The control systems began to fail. Warning lights flashed red and alarms echoed through the room. Arya's guards rushed forward. But Leon had already climbed onto the frame to reach the emergency panel. "Stay back," he shouted. The system might explode. He pulled out a damaged circuit with bare hands while sparks flew around him. The heat burned his gloves, but he kept working until the power stabilized. The alarms faded and the lights turned green again. Arya ran to him as he stepped down, his arm slightly bruised. "You could have been hurt," she said, her voice tight with concern. He shrugged. It needed to be done. "You risked your life without hesitation," she said quietly. "That is what humans do when something matters," he replied. For a moment she stood silent. The sight of a fragile human risking everything for a machine, for their shared mission, touched something deep inside her. No warrior in her empire had ever shown such courage without reward or order. After that day, she began to see Leon differently. She still spoke with leaders and attended official meetings. But her attention often drifted back to the small research lab where the human engineer worked. She admired his dedication and his calm spirit. Others noticed too. The alien council members whispered about her growing interest in a human. Some disapproved, fearing that such closeness would affect the mission. But Arya ignored them. She wanted to understand this strange race that lived with such heart. One night, while studying data alone, she asked Leon, "Do humans ever fear the unknown?" He smiled. "All the time. But we move forward anyway." She thought about that answer long after he left. In her empire, fear was a weakness. Yet here, fear was something humans faced openly. They did not hide it. They fought it and grew stronger because of it. Arya began visiting different parts of Earth, escorted by small teams. She saw oceans that stretched beyond sight, deserts glowing under the sun, and cities filled with endless movement. Everywhere she went, people greeted her with wonder and hope. But among all the faces she saw, one stayed clear in her mind: the human, who had looked at her not as a princess but as a person. The media continued to follow her every move. They called her the Star Princess and speculated about her intentions. Some thought she might choose Earth as a new ally, while others feared a hidden plan. Through it all, Leon remained quiet. He did not seek attention. He only cared that the energy bridge worked. One afternoon, while testing a data relay, Arya looked at the blue planet from the viewing deck. Clouds moved slowly over the surface, and sunlight reflected off the oceans. She turned to Leon and said, "Your world is fragile, yet it survives against impossible odds." He nodded. "That is what makes it beautiful." She smiled. "Maybe that is what makes you special." Her guards exchanged puzzled looks, but she ignored them. For the first time, she spoke not as a ruler, but as a soul, discovering something new. The day the energy bridge finally activated. A column of light rose from the facility into the sky. It shimmered across the atmosphere, connecting Earth's communication grid to the galactic network. Cheers erupted from the crowd outside. The project was a success. Arya turned to Leon and said, "Your people will now speak to the stars." He smiled. "Thanks to your help." She shook her head. "No, thanks to both of us. You humans have taught me something precious." "What is that?" he asked. "That greatness is not measured by power or wealth, but by courage and heart." Leon looked at her, unsure what to say. Before he could answer, she stepped closer and added, You have both." Her words lingered in the air like music. As the world celebrated, Arya looked once more at the human beside her and felt a quiet certainty. She had visited many worlds, met countless beings who desired her favor, her power, or her throne. But here, on this small blue planet, she had met someone who saw her as more than a crown. And deep inside, though she did not yet admit it aloud, she knew that her choice would change the destiny of two worlds forever. Weeks passed after the great success of the energy bridge. Earth celebrated its entry into the galactic network, and the name of Princess Arya spread across the planet. Her calm grace and kindness made her a symbol of peace. Every broadcast showed her standing beside human leaders, smiling as humanity joined a greater family of stars. Yet for Arya, her thoughts often drifted away from the ceremonies and speeches. She found herself thinking of Leon more than she expected. He was not like anyone she had met in her empire. He was simple, honest, and fearless in a quiet way. He never tried to gain her favor or impress her. He worked with focus and sincerity, and that made her curious about him. One morning, she visited the research center again. The guards tried to stop her, saying her schedule was full, but she insisted. She wanted to see the humans working, to learn from their methods and their mistakes. Leon was there as usual, surrounded by machines and cables. His hands were covered in oil, his shirt slightly torn from work. But his face carried that same calm look. When he saw her, he quickly stood up. "Your Highness, I did not expect you here today." "I came to see progress," she said with a small smile, "and to understand more about your machines." He nodded. "You can stay as long as you like." Arya walked around the lab, touching the metal panels and studying the small tools. Everything looked rough compared to Zalari technology, yet there was a strange charm to it. Humans built things with purpose, not perfection. Their machines showed struggle, mistakes, and creativity all at once. She stopped near a generator. "This design is simple, yet it works. How do you make it stable without advanced materials?" Leon picked up a metal rod and explained how humans used balance instead of complex alloys. He showed her how weight and pressure created natural resistance. She listened closely, fascinated. "You solve problems with imagination," she said quietly. "Even when your tools are weak," he smiled. "Sometimes limits help us think better." Arya looked at him thoughtfully. "In my empire, limits are seen as failure." "Then maybe your empire misses something important," he replied. His words were bold, yet his tone was calm. Arya did not take offense. Instead, she admired his honesty. She realized that humans were not afraid to speak truth, even to someone of high rank. Later that day, a sudden malfunction struck the lab. The power line sparked, and a surge hit the systems. Alarms screamed, and engineers ran in panic. A high-energy core began to overheat, threatening to explode. The guards shouted for evacuation. But Leon ran straight to the control panel. "Turn off the main circuit," he yelled to his team. "I'll handle the core." Arya's guards tried to pull her away, but she refused. She could not leave while humans risked their lives beside her. She watched Leon open the containment door and face the burning light of the unstable core. His hands moved quickly, adjusting the levers and cutting wires. The heat was intense, and sweat covered his face, but his eyes never lost focus. After several long minutes, the alarm stopped. The power stabilized, and the danger passed. The room fell silent. Leon took a deep breath and looked around. Everyone stared at him with relief and respect. Arya walked toward him. "You could have died," she said softly. He smiled faintly. It was not the first time something went wrong here. She looked at his burned gloves and the soot on his face. "You risked everything without hesitation." "Why?" "Because it was my job," he answered simply, "and because others could have been hurt." Arya felt something stir in her heart. His courage came not from duty or pride, but from care for others. In her empire, such bravery was rare. Warriors fought for glory or power, not for simple duty. Leon's action reminded her of something pure, something she thought no longer existed among advanced worlds. That night, Arya stood on the balcony of her quarters, looking at the stars. The Earth's moon shone softly above. She thought of Leon working late in the lab, his hands moving across the machines with quiet confidence. She realized that his kind of strength was different from what her empire valued. It was the strength of spirit, not muscle or technology. Over the following weeks, Arya spent more time learning from humans. She visited schools, factories, and hospitals. She watched how humans worked together even when they disagreed. They argued, made mistakes, and struggled, yet they kept moving forward. Their minds never rested. One afternoon, she asked Leon to take her to a human city without an escort. He hesitated at first, but agreed after she insisted. They disguised her slightly to avoid attention and walked through the crowded streets. The city was alive with color and sound. Vendors shouted, children laughed, cars moved with loud horns, and music played from shops. Arya looked around with wide eyes. It was chaotic, but full of life. She stopped near a small food stand and watched a woman serve steaming bread to customers. "Your people seem happy even with so little," Arya said. Leon nodded. "Happiness is not about what we have. It's about what we make of what we have." She turned to him. "Your words sound simple, yet they carry meaning. That's what humans do. We find meaning in small things." As they walked farther, Arya saw children chasing each other with laughter. She smiled softly. "In my world, children are raised by machines. They learn discipline early, but never play like this." Leon looked at her. "Maybe that's why your empire is strong but not warm." Arya stopped walking for a moment. His words hit her deeply. She realized that her people had traded emotion for perfection, love for logic, and laughter for order. When they returned to the base, Arya felt different. She had begun to understand what made humans special. Their imperfection was their greatest gift. The next day, the Galactic Council sent a communication to Arya. Her advisors warned her that the Empire was watching her actions closely. Some high-ranking members believed she was spending too much time among humans. They reminded her that she was a symbol of the Zalari bloodline and that emotional attachment to other species was dangerous. Arya listened, but remained calm. After the meeting, one of her advisors said, "Your Highness, humans are unpredictable. They may charm you with words, but they are still primitive. You must remember your duty." She looked at him with steady eyes. "If being primitive means having heart and courage, then perhaps we are the ones who are lost." The advisor bowed his head but said nothing more. Days later, Arya returned to the lab. Leon was adjusting the stabilizers when she entered. He looked tired but smiled when he saw her. "Are you here to inspect my work again?" he asked lightly. "I came to learn," she said. He laughed softly. "You have learned more than most of us already." Arya stepped closer. "Do you know why I keep coming here, Leon?" He looked puzzled. "Because you like our machines?" She shook her head. "No, because I like how you think." Leon blinked in surprise. "How I think?" "Yes," she said. "You see problems differently. You face danger without fear. You question everything, even me. You remind me of what our empire has forgotten." He looked at her, unsure what to say. Finally, he said, "We just do what we can with what we have." Arya smiled. "And that is what makes you strong." For a long moment, they stood in silence, the soft hum of machines filling the air. The following week, the Galactic Council announced that Arya would soon return to her homeworld to report on her mission. The news spread quickly. Many humans were sad to hear it. During a public farewell event, she stood on the stage beside Earth's leaders. Cameras flashed as she spoke. "Humans," she began, "you have shown me more than I expected. You have shown me courage, kindness, and a spirit that never gives up. You build with your hands and dream with your hearts. You are not a weak race. You are the example the galaxy needs." The crowd erupted in cheers. Leon watched from the side, proud, yet heavy-hearted. He knew she would soon leave, and the thought made him uneasy. After the event, Arya found him in the back hall. "You will continue the work, yes?" she asked. He nodded. "Of course, it is important." She looked at him with a hint of sadness. I will miss working with you. Leon hesitated, then said, and I will miss your questions. They both smiled, though neither could hide the sorrow in their eyes. That night, before her departure, Arya visited the viewing deck one last time. The stars shimmered above the dark earth. Leon arrived quietly beside her. You did not have to come, she said softly. I wanted to, he replied. It felt wrong to say goodbye without seeing the stars together. She turned to face him. Do you think your people will change now that they know others exist? I think we will learn, he said. We may not be strong, but we are curious. Curiosity keeps us alive. Arya looked at him with admiration. That curiosity may one day lead you farther than any empire. He looked at her, and for a moment they simply stood together in silence. The stars reflected in her eyes. The quiet hum of the ship filled the air. When she finally turned to leave, she said softly, You have given me something I did not expect. What is that? He asked. Hope, she answered. Then she walked away, leaving him watching the stars. Princess Arya's return to the Zalari Empire was greeted with grand celebrations. Her ship landed on the golden docks of the capital city, surrounded by tall crystal towers that shimmered under the twin suns. Citizens cheered as she stepped out, their voices echoing across the bright sky. The air was filled with petals and music. For them, their princess had completed another successful mission. But Arya's heart was not at ease. Even as she smiled and waved, her thoughts were far away, somewhere on a small blue planet spinning quietly in the cold of space. She remembered the laughter of children, the scent of rain, and the human who had treated her not as a ruler, but as a person. When she entered the grand palace, a high council awaited her. 12 elders sat on crystal thrones, their faces proud and severe. The emperor, her father, stood in the center. His golden robe shimmered with threads of energy, and his eyes carried the weight of centuries. You have done well, my daughter, the emperor said. The humans have joined the galactic network. Their planet will be guided by our wisdom. You have fulfilled your duty. Arya bowed. Thank you, father, one of the elders leaned forward. We have also received reports that you spent much time among the humans. Some worry that you have grown too fond of them. Arya kept her voice steady. I studied them closely. They are a strong and creative race. Their hearts hold more power than we understand. Another elder frowned. Power of the heart is a poetic phrase. Power of science builds empires. Do not let their simplicity charm you, princess. The emperor raised his hand, silencing the council. Let her speak. I wish to hear her thoughts. Arya looked around the chamber. Humans may not have great fleets or long lives, but they possess something rare. They fight not only with weapons, but with hope. They believe in impossible things. That belief is their strength. The hall fell silent. Some elders looked thoughtful, others uneasy. The emperor watched her carefully. You speak with passion. Tell me, Arya, what do you truly think of them? She hesitated for a moment, then said quietly, I believe they can change the galaxy. Some shook their heads. Others whispered that her time on Earth had clouded her mind. The emperor, however, said nothing more. He simply nodded and dismissed the meeting. In the days that followed, the empire prepared for a grand event known as the Union Summit. Leaders from every major world would gather to form new alliances and trade agreements. Arya was to attend as the face of the Zalari Empire. Suitors from other royal houses were expected to compete for her favor, hoping to join their families with hers through political union. Her attendants filled her chambers with luxurious dresses and jewels. Every color of the cosmos shimmered in the fabrics. Yet none of it brought her joy. She sat by the window, watching the sun set over the city. Thinking of Earth's blue skies, her advisor entered, holding a data tablet. Your Highness, the Emperor has approved the list of alliance candidates. You will be expected to make a choice during the summit. Arya looked up slowly. A choice? Yes, he said. A political partner. The council believes it is time you strengthen our empire's unity. Arya nodded, but felt her heart sink. The thought of choosing someone for politics rather than meaning felt hollow. She smiled politely, but inside, She knew she could never give her heart to any of them. That night, unable to sleep, she activated the communication crystal that connected her to the galactic network. A blue light filled the room as she sent a message across the stars. It was simple and quiet. To Leon, on Earth, how is your world? Hours passed before a reply arrived to Princess Arya. Still noisy, still messy, still beautiful. She smiled at the words. For the first time since her return, she felt peace. The next few weeks passed in a blur of preparations. Delegates from across the galaxy arrived in shining ships, each bringing gifts and promises. The palace sparkled with banners and music. Arya greeted them with grace, but her mind wandered. One evening, as she walked through the gardens, her old friend and guard, Captain Naren, approached her. You seem distant, Princess. Is something troubling you? She looked at him thoughtfully. Have you ever met someone who made you question everything you were taught? Naren smiled gently. Once, long ago. Why do you ask? Arya looked up at the stars. Because I think I have met such a person. Naren's eyes softened. On Earth? She nodded. A human. An engineer named Leon. The captain hesitated, then said, You always had a curious heart. But be careful, Princess. The Empire does not look kindly on attachments outside our kind. I know, she said softly. But I cannot pretend he does not matter. When the summit finally began, the grand hall filled with the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The air shimmered with color as hundreds of species gathered under the golden banners of the Empire. Music echoed from crystal instruments, and the crowd watched as Arya entered in a silver gown that glowed faintly under the lights. One by one, leaders approached her with gifts. The Prince of Valen offered a crown made of starlight. The Lord of Mirren presented her with a blade forged from a dying sun. Each promised her power, wealth, and influence. She thanked them politely, her voice calm, her smile gentle. But inside, she felt only emptiness. Every word she heard was about power or beauty, never about understanding or kindness. Then the Emperor rose and addressed the assembly. Today we celebrate unity. My daughter, Princess Arya, will choose a partner to stand beside her and guide our empire into a new age. The hall fell silent. All eyes turned to Arya. She stepped forward, her heart pounding. She looked across the sea of faces. Alien leaders, noble heirs, warriors, and scholars waited for her decision. Then, slowly she spoke. I have met many across the stars, she began. Each of you offers great gifts. But I have learned that power without heart is hollow. The galaxy does not need more strength. It needs understanding. Whispers filled the hall. The Emperor watched her closely. Arya continued. During my mission to Earth, I met a human who showed me the courage of his people. He risked his life to save others without thought of reward. He taught me that true power lies in compassion and honesty. He made me see that greatness does not come from birth or status, but from choices. The hall grew tense. The elders exchanged alarmed looks. The Emperor's expression turned unreadable. Arya took a deep breath. So when you ask me to choose, I choose not by title or alliance. I choose by truth. The room erupted in murmurs. One noble shouted, Surely you do not mean the human. Arya lifted her head proudly. Yes, I choose him. Gasps filled the hall. Some stood in disbelief. Others looked outraged. The Emperor raised his hand, and silence returned. His voice was calm but cold. You speak with boldness, my daughter. Do you understand what you say? Yes, father, she replied. I know the weight of my words. I choose Leon of Earth. The Emperor studied her for a long moment. The council will not approve. You would risk our reputation for a primitive? Arya's voice grew stronger. I would risk it for truth. Every species here seeks me for what I represent, not who I am. Only he saw me as a person. Her words echoed through the hall. For a moment, even the Emperor seemed silent with thought. Finally, he said, The council will deliberate. Until then, this matter is paused. He stood and left the hall, ending the ceremony abruptly. That night, Arya sat alone in her chamber. Outside, the twin moons rose over the city. She knew her choice had shaken the Empire. The news would spread fast. Already, the media lights flashed across the skyline. She could imagine the headlines. The princess chooses a human. Her guards whispered outside the door, unsure of what to do. But Arya felt calm. For the first time in her life, she had spoken from her heart. She activated the communication. Crystal once more and sent a message to Earth. To Leon. I spoke your name today before the galaxy. Minutes passed before his reply came to Princess Arya. You always surprise me. What did they say? She smiled faintly as she answered. They said I was reckless, but I feel free. The next morning, the Empire buzzed with tension. Some citizens supported her, calling her brave and wise. Others demanded that the Emperor deny her choice. The council met in secret chambers, debating the future of the royal bloodline. Meanwhile, Arya requested permission to travel back to Earth. The Emperor refused at first, fearing scandal, but she pleaded with calm determination. Finally, he agreed under one condition. She would go only to ensure diplomatic stability, not to follow her feelings. She accepted without hesitation. Deep inside, she knew her reason was far more than duty. When her ship left the Golden City and entered the endless dark, she stood by the window, watching the stars rush past. Somewhere ahead lay the blue planet that had changed her forever. Naran approached her quietly. You truly mean to stand by your choice, even against the Empire? Yes, she said firmly. Because what I found on Earth is more real than all the power in the galaxy. He bowed his head. Then may the stars guide you, princess. Arya looked out into the endless void and whispered, I am no longer just a princess. I am someone who has learned to choose. As her ship sped toward Earth, the stars seemed brighter, as if the universe itself listened. The entire galaxy trembled when Princess Arya announced her choice. The royal court of the Zalari Empire could not believe that their heir had chosen a human as her companion. Across thousands of systems, the news spread like wildfire. Many saw it as a betrayal of royal blood. Others saw it as the beginning of a new era. But for Arya and Leon, it was the start of the hardest days of their lives. Inside the grand hall of the capital city of Zalera Prime, the council gathered in anger. The nobles shouted, demanding that the princess be removed from her position. They claimed a human was not worthy of standing beside their royal bloodline. The sound of their voices echoed through the crystal walls. Arya sat quietly on her throne, her silver eyes fixed on them. She showed no fear. Her calm face only made them more furious. One council member, Lord Vecker, stepped forward. He was tall and cold, known for his loyalty to the old traditions. He pointed at Leon, who stood near the side of the chamber. This human has no right to be here, Vecker said. He is weak, untrained, and has no understanding of our ways. You insult our ancestors by keeping him near you? Leon wanted to speak, but stayed silent. He knew Arya had to handle this her way. She rose slowly from her seat and looked at the council. Strength is not always about power or blood, she said. Sometimes it is about courage and heart. Leon showed me that courage when he risked his life to protect me. He did not think of rank or reward. He acted because it was right. Council murmured in disagreement. Many refused to listen. Arya continued, If this is what weak means, then I wish all leaders were as weak as him. The meeting ended in chaos. The nobles left angry and frustrated. Arya turned to Leon. They will not stop easily, she said. They will try to take me away from you. Leon nodded. Then I will stand with you until the end, he replied. In the following days, unrest grew across the empire. Fleets of ships began to gather, loyal to those who wanted to replace Arya. Some generals refused to take her orders. The communication channels were filled with threats and warnings. It was clear that war was coming. Arya and Leon moved to the Royal Command Center, deep within the palace. The chamber was filled with floating holograms of ships, fleets, and defense lines. Leon studied them carefully. He was not a soldier, but his mind worked differently. He saw patterns and possibilities others missed. He pointed at one cluster of ships near the border. "If they attack from here, they will trap your supporters in the outer sectors," he said. "But if we move our ships through this corridor, we can block them before they reach the center." The generals looked at each other. Some were doubtful, but Arya trusted him. "Prepare the fleet," she ordered. "Follow the humans' plan." Her decision surprised many, but within days, Leon's strategy worked. The rebel fleets were stopped before they could reach the core systems. The victory gave hope to her loyal followers, but it also made her enemies more desperate. Soon, another problem appeared. The rival empires began watching closely. They saw the Zellery Empire divided and weak. If war broke out, it could spread across the stars. Arya knew she had to act before that happened. She decided to speak to the people directly. She stood before the grand broadcast platform, where her words would reach every world under her rule. Leon stood behind her, silent but supportive. Arya looked into the camera. "My people," she said, "I know many of you doubt my choice. You wonder why your princess stands beside a human. But I ask you to look beyond what you see. Humanity has something our great empire forgot long ago. They fight not for power, but for hope. They build not because they must, but because they dream." Her voice was steady and filled with emotion. "Leon represents what our galaxy needs most, a heart that believes in others. If this is weakness, then I choose weakness. If this is foolish, then I choose to be foolish. Because in him, I see what makes us truly strong." The speech reached billions. Across planets, many began to see her not as a ruler, but as a leader who truly cared. Small uprisings against her enemies started. Citizens demanded peace. Her message began to change hearts. But her enemies were not done. Lord Vecker and his supporters gathered their fleets for one final move. They planned to attack the capital and remove Arya from power. When Arya learned about it, she refused to hide. She wanted to face them directly. Leon tried to stop her. "It is too dangerous," he said. "Let your guards handle this. You do not need to stand on the front lines." She smiled softly. "If I ask my people to fight for peace, I must be willing to stand beside them," she said. "You taught me that." They flew together to the main command ship, the Radiant Star. The fleet waited above the capital, ready for battle. The stars outside were filled with moving lights from thousands of ships. The silence before the fight was heavy. Leon stood beside Arya on the bridge. "Whatever happens today, I am glad I met you," he said. Arya looked at him with a calm smile. "And I am glad I chose you," she replied. "Not because you are human, but because you remind me what it means to be alive." The enemy fleet appeared from hyperspace, filling the sky with light. The war began. Energy beams crossed space, and the sound of battle shook the ship. Arya gave commands with precision. Leon monitored the systems, helping the engineers reroute power to shields. When one of the enemy ships tried to break through, Leon found a way to disable it by hacking its energy core. His quick thinking saved thousands of lives. The crew began to trust him even more. They saw that this human was not just a symbol. He was a fighter. The battle lasted for hours. The enemy forces were strong, but Arya's leadership and Leon's strategy slowly turned the tide. When Lord Vecker's flagship was surrounded, Arya opened a communication link. "Vecker," she said firmly, "stop this now. No one needs to die for pride." Vecker glared at her through the screen. "You have shamed us," he said. "You have chosen a weak species over your own kind," Arya replied. "Strength without compassion is nothing. You rule through fear. I choose to lead through hope." For a moment, silence filled the air. Then Vecker closed the channel and ordered his ships to continue fighting. But his soldiers had already lost faith. Many began to surrender. When his flagship's engines failed, the battle ended. The rebellion was crushed. As the smoke of war cleared, Arya looked at the stars outside. The cost of peace had been high, but it was not in vain. Leon walked up beside her. "It is over," he said quietly. She nodded. "No," she replied. "It is only the beginning." In the following days, Arya called for a new council made up not only of Zelari nobles, but also representatives from other worlds, including Earth. Leon was chosen as the first human ambassador to the Empire. Many saw him as a hero, but for Arya, he was more than that. He was the reason she had found courage to change. She looked at him as he spoke to the crowd during the peace ceremony. He spoke about unity, about how every world could learn from each other. His words were simple, but powerful. When he finished, Arya stepped forward and addressed everyone. Today, we end the age of fear and begin an age of trust. We have fought enough wars to know that no one truly wins through destruction. The future belongs to those who choose understanding. The hall filled with cheers. The war that once threatened to destroy them had brought something greater instead: unity. That night, as the stars shone over the capital, Arya and Leon stood on the balcony of the palace. The city lights below were calm again. Arya looked at him. "You have changed my world, Leon," she said. Leon smiled. "You changed mine first," he answered. The sound of the wind carried their words into the night sky, across a galaxy that was finally ready to heal. Peace had returned to the galaxy, but it was a fragile kind of peace. The war was over, yet its marks still lived in the hearts of many. The once mighty Zelari Empire had been divided by pride and fear, but Princess Arya had begun to rebuild it with hope and unity. The palace on Zalara Prime had changed too. The grand halls that once echoed with the voices of angry nobles now carried the sound of rebuilding. Humans, Zelari, and other species worked together on new systems of communication and cooperation. For the first time in the history of the Empire, all were treated as equals. Leon walked through the corridors of the palace with a sense of quiet wonder. He was no longer just an engineer from Earth. He was now a symbol of unity between two worlds. Yet he still preferred to work in simple clothes and spend time among the workers. Many bowed to him, but he never grew used to it. He had no love for titles. Arya watched him from the high balcony of the throne room. Her advisors spoke around her, discussing trade routes, security agreements, and future projects. But her eyes followed Leon as he moved through the gardens, speaking to a group of young students from different worlds. They listened to him with interest as he explained how human technology relied on creativity instead of perfection. One of the advisors, a calm woman named Seller, noticed Arya's gaze. "Your Highness," she said softly, "you have done what no one thought possible. The people follow you not because of your crown, but because of your courage." Arya smiled slightly. "It was never only my courage," she replied. "He gave me the strength to see differently." Seller nodded with respect. "Then perhaps both of you were chosen for this moment." Later that day, Arya walked to the gardens where Leon stood near the old crystal fountain. The sun of Zalara Prime shone through the water, scattering colors across the grass. Leon turned as she approached and bowed his head slightly, a gesture of habit rather than duty. "You should not bow to me," Arya said gently. Leon smiled. "It feels strange not to. Old habits are hard to forget."
Apps.
"It is time to forget them," she replied. "The age of rulers and servants is ending. We are building something new." Leon nodded, his eyes thoughtful. "Then let us build it together." They walked through the garden, speaking quietly about the future. Arya told him about her plans to form the Galactic Union, a council where every species would have a voice. Leon supported her fully, suggesting simple systems to make communication fair and open. He believed that trust could only exist where everyone was heard. In the following weeks, envoys from across the galaxy arrived on Zalara Prime. Tall beings with glowing eyes, winged ambassadors from distant moons, and humans representing Earth's new council all gathered under one roof. The palace became a place of endless discussion and debate. There were disagreements, of course, but something rare began to grow among them: respect. During one of the meetings, an old general questioned why humans should have such influence. "They are new to the stars," he said. "They have not suffered as we have. Why should they have equal standing?" Before Arya could answer, Leon stood up. His voice was calm but firm. "You are right," he said. "Humanity is new among the stars. We are small and inexperienced, But that is why we value life so deeply. We do not seek control. We seek understanding. We make mistakes, but we learn. And perhaps that is what the galaxy needs most right now, the ability to learn again. His words struck the council deeply. Many nodded, and even those who doubted humans before began to reconsider. After that day, the atmosphere in the hall changed. People started to speak more openly. Cooperation became easier. As the council's work continued, life on Zalera Prime grew brighter. Cities that once prepared for war now built schools and research centers. Ships carried supplies instead of weapons. Art and music returned to the streets. Children of many species played together in open parks, no longer afraid of differences. Yet even in peace there were shadows. Some groups still believed the old ways were better. Small acts of sabotage and secret meetings reminded everyone that true unity took time. Arya knew this, but refused to lose hope. She worked harder every day, believing that change was possible. One evening, after a long session of the council, Leon found Arya alone in the observatory. The glass dome above revealed the endless stars. She stood there silently, her hands resting on the railing. "They look so close," she said softly. "And yet each one is so far away." Leon joined her side. "Just like people," he said. "Close enough to see, but far enough to misunderstand." Arya smiled faintly. "You always find simple ways to explain the hardest things." "Maybe because I am simple," he said. She turned to face him. "No, you are not simple. You just see what others forget." For a while they stood quietly watching the stars. The silence between them was peaceful. There was no need for words. The galaxy outside seemed endless, but in that moment it felt connected, just like the two of them. The next morning marked a historic day. The Galactic Union was ready to be declared. The Great Hall of Zalera Prime was filled with representatives from every known world. Flags, symbols, and holograms glowed around the chamber. The energy in the air was full of hope and anticipation. Arya walked onto the stage with Leon beside her. The crowd rose in silence. Cameras and recording drones hovered, ready to broadcast this moment to every corner of the galaxy. She began to speak. "For generations, our worlds have been divided by fear, pride, and distance. We fought for power and lost sight of purpose. But today, we stand together not as rulers and subjects, not as conquerors and the conquered, but as equals." Her voice echoed through the hall. "Many have asked why I chose to trust a human. My answer is simple. Everyone wanted me for what I represented: power, alliance, advantage. But he saw me as a person. He reminded me that strength comes not from control, but from compassion." The audience was silent, hanging on her every word. She continued, "This council is not just a symbol. It is a promise. A promise that no world will ever be alone again. That no species will be silenced or forgotten. Together, we will build a galaxy where peace is stronger than fear." When she finished, Leon stepped forward. His words were quiet but steady. "We all share the same stars," he said. "Let us make sure they shine for everyone." The hall erupted in applause. The sound carried across the galaxy through every broadcast. On Earth, people cheered. On distant alien worlds, leaders stood and saluted. For the first time, the galaxy felt united. After the ceremony, Arya and Leon walked outside the palace. The city lights glowed softly beneath the night sky. Music echoed from the streets where people celebrated. It was a new beginning. Leon looked at the stars. "Do you think it will last?" he asked. Arya nodded slowly. "It will, as long as we keep believing. Peace is not something you win once. It is something you protect every day," he smiled. "Then we have a lot of work ahead," "Yes," she said, "and we will face it together." As they stood there, the sky above filled with ships from many worlds flying in formation. The lights formed the symbol of the new union, a circle around a single shining star. It was a reminder that no matter how different they were, they all shared the same light. The story of the human and the alien princess spread across generations. It became more than a tale of love or alliance. It became a legend about courage, unity, and the strength found in understanding. Years later, when historians spoke of the Great Galactic Reformation, they always began with the same line: everyone wanted her for her crown, but she chose the one who saw her heart. And somewhere among the stars, the descendants of that choice continued to build a future where no one was judged by where they came from, but by what they were willing to stand for. The galaxy had changed forever, because one princess dared to see the worth of a single human, and one human dared to believe that even the stars could learn to live in peace.